Yeah.
Yeah? Breaking news for you now. Back to Philippa.
Chris, thank you very much. We're getting news now from Parliament. A parliamentary official saying that outside Westminster, 2 people have been shot. This is breaking news from Westminster, from Parliament. The building is in lockdown, the Palace of Westminster. That's the Houses of Parliament. 2 people have apparently been shot. A police officer has just told our political editor that someone was shot in front of Portcullis House, which is one of the main areas where members of Parliament have their offices. Now, it's coming in now, the information as I speak. This has just happened, but police are basically clearing the politicians, members of Parliament and members of the public away from the entrance of Portcullis House, away from the area. As you'll appreciate, this is not only a very busy political centre, the hub, the nerve centre of British politics, but there are a huge number of tourists, members of the public, always around Westminster, Parliament Square and the area nearby. So no immediate comment from the Metropolitan Police, although there is news coming in all the time. And actually, this is just coming in from a Reuters photographer. Saying they've seen at least a dozen injured people on Westminster Bridge. This indicates that it might be a pretty serious incident. We've had a confirmation from a parliamentary official that 2 people have been shot, but now eyewitness reports from Westminster Bridge of at least a dozen injured people. Now, what you're looking at now, you can just see Big Ben on the right of your screen and Westminster Bridge below it. This is such a main artery through London. Traffic has stopped. You can see the police car there, the lights flashing. Police will be swamping the scene. Obviously, there's always tight security around the Houses of Parliament, but this is now an incident in which we've heard that the Palace of Westminster is on lockdown. There have been reports of shots. Reports from a parliamentary official that 2 people have been shot, though no confirmation from the Metropolitan Police. And look, you can see from our aerial shot now, looking down onto Parliament Square, with all the buses there leading on Whitehall, going up to Trafalgar Square. There's a traffic lockdown here. A lot of police on the scene. You can see police cars and lights, and you can see that very quickly, in fact, that area, which would have been full of members of the public, of tourists, of people looking at one of the iconic sites of London, it's being cleared. The police are there. Let's show you Westminster Bridge again. This is just turning around the corner to the right, as it were, and you can see they are now moving buses, moving some of the traffic off the bridge. I think what they're trying to do is probably establish a security cordon here. For the moment, you can still see some of the river traffic going on the Thames under the bridge. They're obviously trying to clear traffic from off the bridge. A large number of people in uniform there. This would have been a really congested area in terms of people, politicians, officials, tourists, members of the public, and they will have a protocol for clearing this area as fast as possible. You can see police motorcycles now just turning around from Parliament Square, making their way up Whitehall. A huge number, obviously, of government buildings there too, which will be protected, and the protocol will affect the whole area that you are seeing now from our aerial shot. Now, we're going to keep in touch with what is being confirmed for us by the Metropolitan Police and by the authorities at Westminster. Do stay with us here on BBC World. We're keeping across a fast developing situation.
Now we synchronize watches. In 7 seconds, it will be precisely.
One show like that could pull this whole network right out of the hole now, Frank.
It's 11 o'clock at night, Richie.
Hello, I'm Philippa Thomas. You're with BBC World, and in fact we're going to join our sister channel now, the BBC News channel, because of this major breaking news of an incident at Westminster at the Houses of Parliament. Let's join my colleague there.
Area, and it looked like maybe there was a protest or some demonstrations. Then we saw people running outside the building, running away from the Westminster Bridge area. And we were told to step back from the glass doors. A couple of MPs have said to me that they heard gunshots outside the House of Commons. We were ferried inside and told not to leave the building at all, and now we have been moved away from Portcullis House and into back areas of the building. Other people have said that they've seen a couple of bodies lying on the ground. There's talk of a stabbing. Somebody said they saw 2 police officers lying on the ground. We can't confirm that at all. All we know is that inside, we've been told to stay inside, not leave the building, and there has been commotion outside.
Yes, it is a confused picture, Carolyn, because the Metropolitan Police are now saying that they're not confirming that they've shot anyone. This will be a shock for everybody involved because, of course, over the last few years, the security around Westminster, around the Palace of Westminster, has been tightened enormously.
It certainly has, yes. I mean, there are the barriers to stop cars running into the building. There are checks and security checks, you know, as you come in. Anyone walking around the building has to display a pass. Even to move in within the building itself, you have to use particular passes. So, yes, it has been tightened up. What's interesting, though, is that a lot of MPs were on their way to vote. There is an escalator that moves from the Portcullis Cafe area, which goes down towards the main House of Commons and the House of Commons chamber. And a lot of MPs were on their way. There'd been a division bell and they were leaving the Portcullis Cafe. And a couple of them said that then they heard gunshots, or they were told that there were gunshots, and so they were quickly ferried back into Portcullis House and told to stay there and not leave the building.
And Carolyn, we can add something to your account. The Metropolitan Police are tweeting that they were called at roughly 2:40 this afternoon, so 20 minutes ago, to reports of an incident at Westminster Bridge being treated as a firearms incident, police on scene. So it would suggest that there are at least 2, if not more, different incidents, possibly related, that are going on at the same time around Westminster.
Well, we saw a large number of police and security officers racing through Portcullis House and on their way to those outside glass doors that I described to you. Obviously, we didn't know what they were going to, but they've obviously all been called to go to see what's happening with this incident. And as it's happening outside...
Carolyn, I'm going to break in. Sorry, we're going to straight to the Commons because they're being updated there of what's happened.
Kept aware of what is happening, but at the moment the very clear advice from the police and the Director of Security in the House is that we should remain under suspension and that the chamber should remain in lockdown until we receive advice that it is safe to go back to normal procedures.
What I wasn't going to do was enter into debate at this stage. I just wanted to make sure that people are informed why we're in here and why we're in lockdown. And we will come to later on when we know where we're up to. Shall the Leader of the House?
Can I just thank you for that, and can I thank the Leader for the statement, and just to say that our thoughts and prayers are with the police officer, and to thank the police of all the security services and all the staff for looking after us so well.
But now,
The Honourable Lady, and I think those sentiments will be shared without reservation in all parts of the House.
so we remain suspended till further notice. OK.
So that's what they're being told. Let's take you now to an eyewitness. Radoslav Sikorski is the former Polish foreign minister, I think joins me on the phone. Can you just tell me what you saw?
Taxi going from Westminster Square to the South Bank, and I didn't see the car, but I heard what I thought was just a collision. And then I looked through the window of the taxi and I saw someone down, obviously in great distress. And then I saw a second person down. And I started filming, and then I saw 3 more people down, one of them bleeding profusely. So what I saw was an incident involving at least 5 people seriously injured.
We're looking at the video that you shot just moments ago. Can you describe what reaction there was, where the police were already there? What happened?
No. This was... I started filming seconds after the car passed, and people rushed forward to help the victims.
So you saw the aftermath of what looks like a car driving into several people?
Mowing down. I saw five people down.
And then what happened?
And then my taxi moved away, and the taxi driver informed the police. And then we started hearing sounds of ambulances.
Well, Radoslav Sikorski, thank you very much for joining us here on BBC News with that update on what is clearly a developing situation.
We can speak now to Quentin Letts, who's a political sketch writer who was in the Westminster area while this was going on. Quentin, tell us what happened.
Hello there. Yeah, I work in an office which overlooks New Palace Yard, just below Big Ben, and I have a desk just by the windows. And we heard this sounded like a car crash, and we went to the windows to see what was happening. And a lot of members of the public running down the pavement, some of them screaming, shouting. And then we saw a thick-set man in black clothes come through the gates where people would normally drive cars into New Palace Yard. New Palace Yard is just below Big Ben. And this man had something in his hand. It looked like a stick of some sort. And he was challenged by a couple of policemen in yellow jackets, and one of the yellow-jacketed policemen fell down. And we could see the man in black moving his arm in a way that suggested he was either stabbing or striking the yellow-jacketed policeman. And one of the policemen then ran to get help, which was very, very quick to come. And as this attacker was running towards the entrance used by MPs to go into the House of Commons, as he was running, he ran about, I'd say 15 yards perhaps. Two plainclothes guys with guns shouted at him, uttered what sounded like a warning. He ignored it, and they shot 2 or 3 times, and he fell. And that's what we saw.
So, Quentin, your account has just been corroborated by the Commons leader David Lidington, who's told MPs that a police officer has been stabbed and the alleged assailant was shot by armed police following what he called a serious incident within the parliamentary estate. So that would seem to tally entirely with what you've just described.
Yes, and the ambulance has now arrived. A helicopter ambulance has arrived and landed in Parliament Square, and there is work being done, particularly on somebody I can't quite see, but I think that is the policeman.
Quentin, do you know at what time this happened?
No, I didn't. I was doing something. I was doing my work, and I didn't actually take a look at the time. But
in the last half hour?
Quarter of an hour ago or something, 20 minutes ago.
OK. Quentin Letts, many thanks for giving us your account of what you saw. Thank you.
You're watching BBC News, updating you on an ongoing incident outside the Palace of Westminster. It would appear, we are hearing reports that a vehicle photograph is on social media of a 4x4, which appears to have been driven into several people on Westminster Bridge. It's ended up in the gates of the parliamentary building, and then following that, an incident where a man believed to be armed with a knife has gone into the confines of the parliamentary building, has attacked a police officer, and after that armed police have shot dead, as far as we know, a man.
Let's go over to Carol Walker, who is in Westminster, our political correspondent. Carol, lots of pieces of information coming to us. Just bring us up to date with what we know.
Well, certainly the picture that we're getting from official sources and from some of the eyewitnesses is that there has been 2 separate incidents. As you say, one appears to have involved a vehicle on Westminster Bridge. Reports, pictures on social media describing a 4x4. It appears that the vehicle has mowed down several people, at least 5 people hit by that car. We've also had this separate incident which was confirmed by the Leader of the House, David Lidington, who updated the Commons a short time ago. He said that a police officer had been stabbed and the alleged assailant was then shot by armed police. An air ambulance is at the scene to remove the casualties. So it does appear that there are two separate incidents. Now, if we can talk about the incident involving the police, what seems extraordinary here is that an assailant, apparently in some way armed, perhaps with a knife, was able to get into the Old Palace Yard. This is where the official cars pull in, bringing MPs and ministers into Parliament. That is inside the Westminster very heavy security cordon, that somehow an assailant has got in there. It seems that he was challenged by two police officers. One of those was stabbed. It appears that then help was summoned. The assailant was then shot. There is then also this separate incident still being investigated, where it appears that a vehicle has mowed down a number of people on Westminster Bridge, and no firm details on casualties at the moment, but the Palace of Westminster remains in lockdown and the sittings have been suspended as further investigations go on into these two separate incidents unfolding this afternoon.